Hey guys, I'm going to give you a quick introduction on how to use Audacity for multi-track recording. This is meant to be just a brief introduction, not an in-depth thing, so you can kind of get started, get things kicked off, and there's plenty more to learn, but this will at least get you started with your first pass-through. I'm working on a Mac in this case, but this will be pretty much the same if you're working on Linux or Windows, so don't worry about the operating system. Audacity works great on all three. So first off, when you launch Audacity, the most important thing that you're going to need to look at is where your inputs are coming from. In this case, you'll see I have here an icon of a microphone, and when I select that, you can see PreSonus and the built-in microphone. The PreSonus is my audio interface that my microphone is connected to, so I'm going to use that rather than the built-in. And then the next item over here is which inputs from that device, from that PreSonus, am I going to use. I have a total of 10 inputs on that device. So the way this works, if I choose one, it's going to just use the interface's first input channel. If I choose two, it'll give me two channels, so on down to all 10 channels at once. Typically, you're just going to want to use the one. If I have a single microphone connected, I just want to have that one channel. If you happen to be using stereo microphones, you might use that second one. Or if you're not necessarily doing stereo, but if you have two different microphones for two different people, or your guitar is being recorded with two microphones, or whatever other setup you may have, you can choose a larger number, and every input that you use will be recorded. So again, typically that's just going to be the mono. And then finally, we have what's the output going to be. I'm using, again, my PreSonus output, and I have headphones connected to that because I don't want the output from anything that I'm playing here to then be picked up again by my microphone. So it's really important that when you're doing multi-track recording, you're going to use headphones to listen to any playback from the system. So that's our start off point. And the next thing you're going to want to do when you start working on your song is know what tempo you're going to play at. That you can work out by any number of different methods. I typically will do a brief recording directly with my my software at the tempo that I like, and then I'll use my my iPhone to count out the rhythm and get the actual tempo. And so that first track, that first recording will just be a scratch track, but there's a lot of different ways you can choose to get your tempo. Once you know what tempo you're going to be playing, you're going to want to go into Audacity and choose this Generate menu, and then click Track. Here you can set the tempo that you want. So I'm going to use 96, 4 beats per measure, a typical 4/4 song. Unless you're doing 3/4, you may want to do that. But you can check through the rest of this. The really important settings are going to be your tempo, beats per measure, and then how many measures you want to use. This is going to determine how long the song is actually going to be. No harm in making it too long. It'll really mess you up if you make it too short. So if you make it 16 measures and you're trying to play 20 measures, that click track's going to end before you're done with your performance. So make sure you don't go too short on that. If you don't know how long your song's going to be, just make it a big number and work with that. So I'm just going to leave it at 16 for now. These other items you can mess around with, but they're not going to be nearly as critical. So when I click OK here, you'll see that we get a track that has these lines in it. These lines each represent a click. So if we play, that's what you're going to hear. That's our click track, so we're going to play along to that rhythm. Now this isn't going to be a high quality recording here. I've got my guitar. So I am going to start the recording, and as soon as I do, I'll get a new track. And when I do the recording, really important, you want to let at least a full measure go by before you start recording. The reason for that is that it gives you a count in, so that when you add a second track, you can start at the same time as you did with your first one. So let's go ahead and hit record. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So there I've played through to the end of my song, and I actually went right up to that 16th measure into the end of it, and in fact that final roll off is going to be cut off. So again, you really want to make sure that you have more than enough time in your click track than what you're actually going to play to. We're going to eventually mute that click track when we're all done, so it's not important. But now we want to add a second track. So this is where having the headphones on is going to be important. You want to have headphones on. You don't want this audio to be playing and be picked up by your microphone, but you want to be able to hear it and play along with it. So when I click record again, it's going to start recording the next track. So right now we have our click track, our first audio track, and we're going to listen as it counts in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. All right, now I've got 2 tracks done. So my first track here, which I can give it a name, that's my rhythm guitar. If I can spell it. We'll give the next track a name, lead guitar. And I can keep adding tracks to this. I can add vocals, I can add my bass. When I'm ready for it, I can actually mute out this click track. So if we listen to this right now, it counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. You can hear everything I've recorded so far, including that click track. So if I'm ready, I can take that track out simply by clicking mute. I can add in additional parts. I can add in the drums once all of those other things are done. And that kind of is the first bit that I wanted to show you. I'm going to create another video that shows you how to export when you're finished with your track, and then be able to share that finished product with other people. So check for that link if that's important to you. And thanks for watching. Leave any comments or questions you have below, and I will do my best to answer as quickly as I can. Thanks a bunch. Cheers.